Hi, welcome to the Excel for Statistics class. This course teaches you statistical thinking concepts that are essential for learning from data and for making business decisions. By the end of the course, you will be able to perform basic statistic analysis using Microsoft Excel. In this meeting, we will learn some statistical functions that can be used in Microsoft Excel. Functions are predefined formulas that perform calculations by using specific values, called arguments, in a particular order or structure. Functions can be used to perform simple or complex calculations. The Excel functions that we will learn in this meeting are, let me share the screen first. Okay, so there are 10 functions that we will learn today. The first one is count. The second one is counta. And then the third one is count blank. Number 4 is count if. Number 5 is count ifs. Number 6 is average. Number 7 is average A. Number 8 is average if. Number 9 is average ifs. And then the last one is median. Okay, so this 10 function, from this 10 function, we can divide it into two types of function. So from the count, counta, count blank, count if, count ifs. Oh, I'm sorry, there's a little mistake in here. Okay, so from count until count ifs, the type is the count function. And then from the average A, average if, average ifs, and then the median is average type of function. Okay, so we will learn how to do the function in Microsoft Excel. Okay, so the first function that we will learn is count. Okay, let me show this one. Okay. Okay, so count function. This function is used to count the number of cells that contain numbers and count the numbers in the argument list. This count function includes both numbers and dates. Okay, so includes both numbers and dates, so only numbers and dates. Okay, the syntax of the function is equal count, and then the part of the count function is value 1 and value 2. Okay, so what is value 1? Value 1 is the first item, cell reference, or range for which you want to count. Okay, so value 1 is required, means it must be input in this function. And then the second one is value 2. It can be filled with up to 255 additional items, cell reference, or range that you want to count. Okay, so value 2 until the last one, value 255, is the optional item. It means it can be not included in this function. Okay, so here's the example. So I already make some the data example. So you can make this table that consists of our data that we will process it into the count function. So you may input the data first. You can pause the video and input the data, and then after you finish it, you can play this video again. Okay, so I assume you already finished making this table. Okay, so there are 5 information here. So customer, product, amount, price, and total. Okay, so the customer, it includes the customer name, and then for the product, it includes the product type, and then for the amount is the amount of product that the customer buy, and then for the price is the price, net price for each product, and then the total is the calculation from the amount and the price. Okay. Okay. So we will go directly to make the count function from this kind of information. So I want to do the count function to process the information from amount column. Okay, so I just want to get the data from the amount column. Okay, so equal count and bracket. So the value is the first item cell reference or range. Okay, so we will make this kind of range. So from E15 in my computer until E24. And then close this one. And well, so as you can see in here, the total, okay, the total number of cells that contains number is 10. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so the number of cells is 10. And then for the another example, I want to do the count function for the amount, price, and total column. Okay, so we type equal count. So from here until here, and then close the bracket. So the total number of cells is 30 because all of these are numbers data, okay, not the alphabetical data like this one. Okay, so maybe you are questioning how about we just make the count function to perform count function from all of this data. Okay, so I already make the range from John until $9, the last one. Okay, let us see. So the result is the same when we make the range from the amount, price, and total column. Why? Because count function is only can be performed when the data is the type of data is numbers, not alphabet or word, or it contains something like that. Okay, so it only count the numbers. Okay, I hope you already understand about the count function. And then we go through the next function, the counter function. Okay, see, so the counter function is the function used to count the number of cells that are not empty in a range or range name. Okay, the syntax of the function is equal counter, and then there are value 1 and value 2, same as the count function before. Okay, so for the value one is the first item, cell reference or range for which you want to calculate the number. So it's the same with the count function. It is required for the value one. And then for the value 2 and so on, it can be filled with up to 1,255 additional items, cell reference or range that you want to count the numbers. Okay, so the data is the same with the count function. We have customer, product, amount, price, and total. Okay, so you may copy the data before, or you can make the new one. Okay, and then we just go through this one. So for the counter function, to perform the counter function, we just type equal sign, and then counter, and then we may make a range from John until the $9 in here. Okay, close the bracket, and then it's 50. Okay, so it's different with the count function before. When we make a range from John until 9, the count function only calculate 30 number of cells. But for the counter, it calculates there are 50 number of cells. Why? Because, as you can see in here, function used to count the number of cells that are not empty. So it will count all of data, all of cells that are not empty. So the question is, how if we delete the data? Okay, so let me make the example. So I will delete this one. The counter function count that only 49 number of cells after I delete this data. Okay, when I delete some of its okay, so the total number of cells that are not empty currently is 41. So it will count only the cells that are not empty. Okay, so that's the counter function. So the difference between count and counter, so the count is only counting the number of cells that contain numbers, okay? And then for the counter function is counting the number of cells that are not empty. And then we go to the count blank function. So the count blank is the function used to count the number of blank cells in a range. Okay, so it's different with the counter function. When the counter function is to calculate the cells that are not empty, the count blank is used to count the number of blank cells or empty cells in a range. Okay, the syntax is the count blank, equal count blank, and then the item is range. The range is for which you want to count blank cells. Okay, let me perform this one. Equal count blank, open bracket, and then we make a range from John until $9. Okay, so the cells that are empty or blank is 6. Okay, so it only count the cells that are empty. Okay, so when I type maybe 3 in here, 2 in here, so the count blank function calculates that there are 4 number of cells that are empty. Okay, because I already filled the data that are different from the before. Okay, so I hope you already understand about the count day, and count blank function. And then the next one is count if. Okay, the count if function is the function used to count the number of cells that meet specified criteria. The syntax of the function is equal COUNTIF, the item is range and criteria. The range is the range you want to calculate can contain numbers, lists, range names, or cell reference that contain numbers. This one is required. And then for the criteria, the number, expression, or cell reference that determines which cell to count. And this one is required too. So we may not forget these two items. So when you only input the range, but you don't input the criteria, it may be not will show the results. Okay, so the data is the same from before, same like the count day, and then count blank. Okay, you may use the data that you already made before. And then I will give you the example how to perform the COUNTIF function. So I want to count maybe, let us say, the plate. Okay, I want to count the plate product. Okay, so I just type plate in here. So when we type in here the criteria, please make sure that the format of the alphabet is correct. It's the same with the data. So I have the LATE is this small alphabet, and then for the P is the big alphabet. Okay, and then for the COUNTIF function, so let me show how to perform the COUNTIF function. Okay, start COUNTIF, and then choose the range from John until $9 as always, and then let me put the semicolon symbol, and then just put the criteria. Okay, so the criteria is on G14. Okay, and voila. So the COUNTIF function is calculate that there are three cells that contain plate. Okay, the criteria per plate. So let us count it manually. So this one, 1, 2, and 3. So the total in our data, there are 3 cells that contains word plate. Okay, so this that is the function of the COUNTIF function, to count the number of cells that meet the specified criteria. Okay, and then next, the COUNTIFs. Okay, COUNTIFs is a little bit different from the COUNTIF because the criteria in here, there are 2 criteria in COUNTIFs function. Okay, so COUNTIF is a function used to count the number of cells that meet some specified criteria, the same like COUNTIF function. So the syntax of the function is equal COUNTIFs, and then the item is criteria range 1, criteria 1, and then criteria range 2, criteria 2, and so on. So criteria range 1 is the first range to evaluate the related criteria. It is required. And then for the criteria 1 is a criterion in the form of number, expression, cell reference, or text that determines which cells to count. And this one is required too. And then the last one is criteria range 2, criteria 2, criteria range 3, and so on. Are range and associated additional criteria. It is optional. Okay, so the data is the same like before, so you may use your data. And then maybe I just choose, for the first criteria, maybe I just choose John. Okay, and then for the second criteria, maybe I choose Faith. Okay, so my first criteria is John, and the second criteria is plate. Okay, you may use the other criteria, it's okay. there's no problem with that. So how to perform the COUNTIF function? So equal COUNTIF, open bracket, and then the first one is I will make the range for John, for the customer only, for the customer column only. Okay, so from John until John, and then semicolon, and then the criteria will be John, and then the semicolon, the product. Okay, I will make the range for product column. Okay, and then the criteria is plate. Okay, close it. And then there are two number of cells that contains from the customer, it contains John, and then for the product contains plate. So for John, for the customer is John, and then he buys plate, the total is two number of cells. Okay, let us count it manually. So John plate 1, and then John plate 2. So there are two number of cells that contains John and plate. Okay, maybe you can change it into May. Okay, and then maybe bold. So the COUNTIF function perform, I can't count it, that only one number of cells that contains May and bold. Okay, so this is the COUNTIF function. Okay, so I hope you already understand how to perform COUNTIF function. And then we go to the average function. Okay, average is a function that can average the number that we have in Excel quickly and accurately. The syntax of the function is equal average, and then the item is number 1 and number 2 and so on. Number 1 is the first number, cell reference or range for which you want the average. Okay, it is required. And then the number 2 is additional number, cell reference or range for which you want the average up to maximum of 255. It is optional. Okay, so it doesn't matter if you don't have the number 2 item and number 3 item and so on. Okay, so the data is the same with before, so you may use the same data without type it again. So, I will perform the average function. So I want to know the average number from the total. Okay, so the range, okay, so the range is from only for the total column, and then it's from $18 until $9. Okay, let me close the bracket. And then the average is currently $9. Okay, so you may ask, oh, I want to perform the average function for the amount. Okay, let us see how if we do the average function in amount column. So average, and put the range from 6 until 3, and then voila. Oh, it's already the $5. Okay, so the average number from the amount column is 4.6. Okay, so 4.6. And then we go through the average A function. Okay, so the average A function is different from the average function. Okay, so for the average A is for function used to calculate the average arithmetic mean of the values in the argument list. Okay, the syntax of the function is equal average A. The item is number 1 and number 2. So the number 1 and number 2, the number from 1 to 255 for which you want to find the average. Number 1 is required. Number 2 and so on are optional. Okay, so we have this kind of data in here. Okay, there are 24, 18, 2, 3, 14, and 20. You may type the data first before we continue to perform the average A function. You may pause the video, and then after you finish to input this data, you can play it again. Okay, so I assume you already finished your data, and then we just go to perform the average A function. So the average A function is pretty simple. We type equal average A, open the bracket, and then from 24 until 20. So the average A function, the result from the average A function is 13.3333 and so on. Okay, so maybe you may ask, how if we change the true? Okay, because we have the word, the other is number, and then this one is alphabetical. Okay, so how about we change it to false? Its result is changed to 13.1666 and so on. And then how if we change it to 0? The result is the same. And then how if we change it to 1? The results back to 13 and 3.3333. So what I want to say is the true alphabetical true is the same with numerical data for 1, but for false is the same with 0. Okay, so I hope you understand. For this kind of function, it will be detect for the false word into 0, and then for the true, it will be detect 1. Okay, so I hope you already understand about it, and you may learn again in some other source. We just go to the next function. The next function is average if. Okay, so average if is the function used to calculate the average arithmetic of all cells in a range that meet the specified criteria. The syntax of the function is equal average if the item is range criteria and average range. Okay, so therefore the range is one or more cells to be average, including the numbers or names, array, or references that contains numbers. And then for the criteria, criteria in the form of numbers, expressions, cell reference, or text determine which cells to average. So for the range and the criteria, it's required. And then the last one is average range, the actual set of cells to be average. If left blank, then the range is used. It is optional. Okay, so let us try how to do the average if function. Okay. Okay, so the criteria I want to make is John. Okay, so how to perform the average if function is equal average if, open the bracket, and then because the criteria is John, so we will make the range from John from the customer column, so from John until John, and then semicolon, and then we put the criteria. Okay, so it's blocked. So the criteria is in J15, and then we want to make the average of total. Okay, so I want to make the average of total, but the criteria is John. Okay, so the average function calculate for the average from the total column with the criteria John is $10.67. So it only calculate for John only. Okay, so from this one, and this one. Okay, as you can see in here, it only calculated for the John only. How if I change it to Anderson? It's $9. So it only calculates from here and from here. Okay, so to calculate the average from 2, we can see 12 plus 6 is 18, and then it will be separated by 2. It will be resulted same as our function is $9. Okay, and then the average ifs. Okay, same like the other function that have ifs. It have 2 criteria. Okay, but the explanation is average if is a function used to calculate the average arithmetic for all cells that meet some criteria. The syntax of the function is equal average if, and then the item is average range, criteria range 1, criteria range 2, criteria 1, criteria 2. Okay. As you can see in here, average range is one or more cells to be average containing the numbers of or names, arrays, or reference containing numbers. And then for the criteria range is 1 to 127 range used to evaluate related criteria. Criteria 1 is required, further criteria are optional. And then criteria 1 and criteria 2 is 1 to 127 criteria in the form of numbers, expressions, cell reference, or text that specify the cells to be average. Criteria 1 is required, further criteria are optional. Okay, so same like before, I put the, for the first criteria, I put John, and then for the second criteria, I put Kate. Okay, so let us perform the average. If function, so I just type equal average ifs, and then open the bracket. And for the first one, I want to put the average range first. It means I want to make the average for the total column. Okay, so I put the average. I have the total column first, and then I put the first criteria, John, in here. Then I'm sorry. The next one is criteria range. Okay, the first criteria range is John. So from John until John, and then put the first criteria in here, and then the second criteria is split. So the criteria range is product column, and then put the criteria in here, and close the bracket, and then okay, not that. Okay, so the average function calculate that the average from John and plate is only $13 and $50. Okay, $13.50. Okay, so it's the same with count if function before. It calculate the average for the specific criteria. And then the last one is median. Median is the function used to find the median of a certain number. The syntax of the function is equal median, number 1, number 2. Number 1 and number 2 is the number 1 from the number, I'm sorry, this one is the number from 1 to 255 for which you want to find the median. Number 1 is required, number 2 are so on, and so on are optional. Okay, so the data is the same like before. There are no difference. Okay, so we just perform the median for the amount. Okay, I want to find the median for the amount column. So the median for the amount column is 4.5. Okay, how about I want to find the median from the total. The median from the total is $7.50. So these are the basic function, basic statistic function that maybe you can perform it individually. It's more easy than the other functions. So yeah, I hope you can understand about this function before we go through the more specific function that are used for the statistics data. Okay, so I hope you learn much from this meeting. So I hope you will continue to learn in the next meeting. So I hope it will be good for you. Okay, see you in the next meeting. Goodbye.